Johann Wolfgang von Goethe tells us, that when we do our work quietly and well, unknown friends will find us and angels will surround us. And usually when I find a quote like that and I find it inspirational, I post it somewhere on the refrigerator in my office. And that's a quote I posted a long, long time ago. And I found through my life experience that the passage actually validated itself. When I was writing the book, Irish Soldiers of Mexico, I hit obstacle after obstacle. And I'll give you just one example. I went to Washington, D.C., and I was with a group of students. It was Week Without Walls, and I was giving them the tour of Washington. And while we were there, I thought, well, I'll stop in because I'm doing research on this Irish battalion that fought in Mexico. I'll stop in at the National Archives and see if they have any information. And they didn't, but they referred me to the military archives. And I went there and I met a young man named Michael Pilgrim, who was in charge. And I said, do you have anything on the San Patricio battalion? And he said, yes, but it's uncatalogued, it's all in cardboard boxes. You'd have to go through the papers one at a time. And I said, could I make copies of the papers? He said, sure, but it would cost you many thousands of dollars because it's like $1 a copy. And I said, well, I'm a teacher in Mexico, I don't have that kind of money. And he said, well, leave me your address and number and maybe I can do something. Well, a month later, I received a letter from him and he said, how does $29 sound? And he had put the whole thing on microfiche. So an unknown friend found me in Washington, D.C. And my experience in writing that book and doing the research continued to be that way. I found people that I didn't know who reached out and helped me along the way. And that's been my experience throughout life. And it's really great. That quote is still up there after 30 years.
I do not know what job I did or how well I did it to deserve a teacher like Dr. Hogan. But it was a blessing for me to be able to spend time with him as his intern. At first I couldn't understand what a science student could do for a writer, but in a month I spent with him, I realized that my only job as his intern was to be receptive, to learn. I made videos for him, tried to write reviews for his poetry and books, to read poetry, to help him with his research for his speech. But all of these were tasks that I either hadn't done before or wasn't comfortable in doing. Dr. Hogan not only shared with me what he knew, but also trusted me with tasks I didn't believe I could do. Spending time with him gave me the courage to publish an illustration I made for William Stafford's poem, A Message from the Wanderer. I find it difficult to interpret poetry, but Dr. Hogan always helped me see the image in the random strokes.
So one of the great things, Stuti, about poetry is that every once in a while you'll find a poem that describes a moment that's ineffable, that one would think would be impossible to describe in prose. And one of those examples for me is a beautiful poem by William Stafford called A Message from the Wanderer. And the passage goes like this. Thus freedom always came nibbling at my thought, just as, often in light on the open hills, you can pass an antelope and not know, and then look back, and then, even before you see there's something wrong about the grass, and then you see. His next line is, and that's the way everything in the world is waiting. And that's a poem that for me speaks volumes because it describes something that I've experienced, I know you've experienced as well, but we just haven't had the words for it. And here he finds the words in very simple language by using a metaphor in a story.
What is unique about Dr. Hogan is that he didn't try to make me understand poetry. He made me understand that poetry is a tool that I can use to be able to feed my intellectual curiosity.
Yeah. So we're talking about transcendence and also about epiphanies. We talked about the essay on nature by Emerson and James Joyce's definition of epiphany. But none of these really get to the essence of what epiphany is or what transcendence is. And I love how T.S. Eliot describes it. He says, it's the point of intersection of the timeless with time. And he's not satisfied with that because it's very abstract. So he comes up with what he calls an objective correlative, or actually several objective correlatives. He says it's like the wild time unseen. It's like the summer lightning. It's like the music heard so deeply that it is not heard at all, but you are the music while the music lasts. And I think that's beautiful. I think that encapsulates exactly what it is, this intersection of the spirit with matter. When for a moment you're out of yourself and have merged with something higher.
Dr. Hogan not only gave me the tools to interpret the words of poets and philosophers, but also helped me address the struggles that come with the beautiful journey of life.
Viktor Frankl, who was an inmate in a concentration camp during World War II, a Nazi concentration camp, was a remarkable man. He was a psychologist and helped many people survive the life in the camps. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And in it he tells us that as long as you have a why in life, you can handle any what. The why is finding a meaning, finding a purpose. And to me this is a very valuable lesson to learn, that anything is bearable, even a Nazi concentration camp, if one has a purpose and a meaning for one's life.
Thank you, Dr. Hogan, for everything that you've taught me and for an excellent summer.